Good morning, everybody. This is IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Here is your basketball expert, myself, Texas Homer. And then we also got Paul on here who I guess tries to know a little something about basketball.
Tries.
So you'll
Tries
see
stuff.
as I kind of teach him the sport and kind of explain a lot of these core concepts to him, but he'll get it. We're going to talk basketball today, and of course, we're going to talk football. It's first day of spring practice. We also got pro day coming up. So we're going to have a post-practice video coming out too. We're going to have a pro day video coming out. And, of course, recruiting intel will also be, I think, at 1 today. So we're going to have a ton of coverage. You guys are going to have a lot of videos, and you guys are going to be on the know. But first, we're going to start off a little bit of basketball, a departure from what we normally do, because we got some cool news in hiring Xavier's Sean Miller. Paul, what did you like about the hire? What do you think it brings to the table? Did we set a good floor? All that good stuff.
That's what the hire did. It set a big floor. And Texas basketball, if you study it, so lots of education needed for the Texas fans on Texas basketball, what it is, the quality of the job, what the actual performance of the program has been. This is going to send you all into a tizzy, but Texas all time is a top 15 squad in wins. Texas all time, or not all time, the last 35 years is a top 15 program.
I had no new when I read that. Even I was surprised because I just hear the offhand comments.
Well, there's an offhanded perception that. Hold on 1 second. I have to rein in a pack of wild coyotes.
Yeah, go for it.
Hold on 1 sec.
Cool. You're good.
Let me see if I can mute this bad boy.
I can mute you if you need me to. There you go. You're good. And while we wait for Paul to get control of his vicious animals, good morning, Derek. Good morning, Roaster. Good morning, Mike D. Hopefully he can use the psychological advantage he has over them there.
I have a pack of animals that are very, very good animals, but they like to spur each other on into insanity when they see. I have a trail in my backyard, basically.
Yeah.
And they like to sit and wait for joggers to go by. And then as the jogger runs past, they break out into barking and then they act like they caused that. They come to me for praise. And I'm like, I'm not praising you for that. That jogger was going to keep going anyway.
That jogger ran in fear from our protection units.
And the biggest, most fearful looking of the dogs is the nicest.
So set a floor.
Sets a floor. Yeah. I think that there were some people who may have been a little disappointed or had some consternation that we couldn't either go for a really, really big name or take a swing at a young up-and-comer, which seems to have worked out rather well for Alabama, for Florida, for schools like that. But I think Miller is a guy that CDC kicked the tires on some time ago. And then because of events, we had to hire a new basketball coach. And because of other events, we had to promote an interim assistant, which, as you know, at the time, Connor, I was not delighted about, as that's a general rule that I like to try to avoid. At that time, I think CDC, if he had it his way, he would have hired Sean Miller then. And I think that was his man. I don't doubt that he reached out and made a couple of inquiries. But ultimately, I think there was one name in the process, and that name was Sean Miller. So I think he brings a high floor. Obviously, he was very successful at Arizona. They ran afoul of the FBI. Not always a good thing to do.
Don't we all, dude? Don't we
all? Come on. Yeah. That's why the dogs were barking a moment ago. It was kind of a weird deal. He wasn't ever indicted on anything or implicated, but it did bring down Arizona's program. He then goes to Xavier and does quite well. And that's where he'd originally sort of cut his teeth and entered the national picture. Xavier is a hoops first program, but they could be hoops first and Texas could be hoops fourth. And we're still going to be a better job and still have more resources than Xavier. And that's a very common misconception, both not of just Texas fans, but some of the so-called hoops national media guys who should know better. I heard people literally debating whether Xavier or Texas is the better basketball job. And it's like these people have been living under a rock for 20 years. There's a reason there's 7 teams in the SEC in the Sweet 16, and that's an all-time record. There's a reason 14 teams from the SEC made it into the NCAA tournament, an all-time record. Football is a plus for basketball if you actively don't ignore the basketball. What I mean is,
right,
there's a point of diminishing returns with football, and you're actually better spent using those extra football earned dollars on basketball, which is also a revenue sport, than just paying your third wide receiver even more money. The money that you're paying the third wide receiver on your football team can go get you a really good six man who can drain six threes in a big game. So that's what the realization is across the SEC. It's not a coincidence that teams like Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss are all playing really good basketball. And every one of those schools is football first. So when you say that Texas is football first as a statement of fan interest broadly, or you state that it's the biggest revenue sport, you're absolutely correct. When people start throwing around football first as a reason why Texas can't ever win the national title in basketball or go to the Final Four or whatever, you're just wrong. And you don't really understand how the landscape has evolved, and you seem to not be paying attention to the current tournament. So it is a good floor hire, but I do think there are people that are disappointed that we didn't take a swing at a really young, promising coach, or take a big swing at a proven commodity with a ton of skins on the wall.
Was the FBI thing a pay-for-play scandal thing?
Yeah, so apparently the shoe companies were directly paying the players.
What?
And,
oh, no.
Yeah, I know. Dude. Basketball's so clean.
That makes me sick to my stomach, dude.
I know. Yeah. The funniest thing is everyone knows college basketball is dirty. It's just shades of gray.
Well, the irony now is you would get fired for not being involved in that.
You would get fired now for not getting a shoe company.
Yeah,
you guys.
It's crazy.
So, how will he do in the current environment? Fine.
Yeah.
So I think the question is, what's his own view? Is he Steve Sarkisian, who's grown and developed as a coach and as a person, and now realizes I've got the opportunity of a lifetime here at the University of Texas, and I'm going to put everything into this and make my mark in college basketball? Or is it, let's get the band back together, and my goal is to make the NCAA tournament every year, and go 8-10 in the SEC conference, right? Which is apparently sufficient to get you a 9 seed.
Right.
Someone in the chat is saying, I heard Self was one of the names coming up. That is correct.
That's Bill Self.
Bill Self. Very good,
I was
Connor.
gonna say, there we go. There we go, dude. Told you.
Connor's like, Self was me. I was coming up.
Yeah.
Me was coming up. Self.
I bet that's another human being.
He's like, Mike D is pretty philosophical.
Yeah.
Self is a name that keeps coming up. That's right, Mike D.
Yeah, there we go.
That's right. For all
Powerful
of us.
stuff. What grade would you give the hire for a men's basketball coach? I'd say a B+. Quite interesting. If we did not hire Miller, what college and NBA coach would you like to be the men's basketball coach?
I think it's a BB+. If we did not hire Miller, realistic hire or dream hire? I'd certainly try to get Billy Donovan back in the college game. That would be good. Self has a few trophies, few first round exits too. That would drive people crazy. But the truth is we had a top 5 basketball coach, national basketball coach here, and he was building a juggernaut, and stuff happened. We don't need to relitigate it.
Yep.
And he has Ole Miss. After 2 years, Connor, he has Ole Miss in the Sweet 16, their second Sweet 16 in school history. So when you guys tell me that Texas doesn't have a great basketball history and stuff like that, which is wrong, if you look to a school like Ole Miss, if you really want to know what a bereft basketball history is. And that guy had phenomenal game plans in both of his games. And unfortunately, oddly enough, the 2 best coaches we've ever hired in college basketball now coach in the same conference that we do against us. So, hey, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Ultimately, I do think he was a B plus hire, and you could do a lot worse than that. He is an improvement in every facet over Rodney Terry.
So as a filthy casual, what I noticed about Beard was his off-court stuff. So he was doing a lot of promo and like trying to get the fans engaged and build the program that way. Because I guess we had kind of died off in interest, and so what I'm interested to see is Miller able to do that, or is he just going to peer? Hey, the wins are going to bring the people. Because you talk about whenever you were in school and stuff like that, it was a different environment. Like if we start winning, Moody will be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a blast, and you build it. I mean, we built it. Texas has great facilities. I'm not just talking about Moody. I'm also talking about the practice facilities, which were done, a bit ago during the Barnes era, and they're really good facilities. I don't think people realize like what a good job and what a good gig the University of Texas is in basketball. Most of all, Texas fans. It's very odd. Fans from other schools have a much higher opinion of Texas as a basketball job than Texas fans, or many Texas fans. But I think we need to change that. How does Miller change that? I don't know if he's a guy that's going to go to all the frats and go to all the student organizations and film little viral videos being entertaining and stuff like that. I don't know. But I do know that he needs to meet with the NIL guys and the guys that love basketball, and we do have those guys, and reestablish a relationship with those folks and sell them on the vision and future of this program. So that's going to be key. I do think that if you win, the fans will come, but it does help to get out there and hype it a little bit. Also, frankly, who he signs this offseason. The portal window is open in basketball. There's going to be several promising guys in that window, and he needs to go get them. He needs to go build up some organic groundswell of like, whoa, Texas is bringing in some dudes. He's constructing a roster. So that is another way that he can get some fan inspiration and some fan juice going.
So some things that I heard as a casual were that Texas didn't support Rodney Terry with NIL, and that's why Terry failed. Is that the cart before the horse? What's going on?
It's exactly the opposite. Wet streets don't cause rain.
Yeah.
The support for NIL deteriorated because I'm trying to be politic here. After a meeting with Rodney Terry, people were less likely to give to the program than more likely. Does that help?
Yeah.
So NIL comes from a sense from the donors that their money will be spent wisely and judiciously, and that there's actually a vision for the program. And I think Miller will be much better able to articulate that vision. One thing he does need to be clear on, though, and I've said this before on the football side, and Sark learned it, and he's done an amazing job building direct relationships with big key alums. The athletic department ain't going to help you with NIL. Okay, that's just the reality. I wish it was not the case, but if I used to be in sales. If you show me a salesperson's bonus plan, I'll show you their activities. And the people that work for the AD sell capital facilities, and they sell naming the lunch table of the volleyball girl team, right? They don't sell NIL. And frankly, some of them view NIL as a competitor, as like a zero-sum game. If a guy doesn't give to facilities,
right,
he's given to NIL, and that's taken bread off my table. The AD's got salespeople basically, and they go out and sell guys on, here's our next capital project. We're refurbishing the girls' soccer team's locker rooms again for the 4th time in 7 years. And would you like to have your name on the plaque? Or, do you want to give some money and get a power forward? I'd rather go get a power forward, but,
I'm a plaque guy. I love a good plaque. Love a good plaque, dude. If I could get a bench, something like that, that's
what your dentist told me.
Yeah, there we go, dude. There we go, dude.
So I people pay the big money for this YouTube channel.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Costs a lot to subscribe, guys, and make sure you do subscribe.
Derek in the chat asked a question I think that is pertinent to building out this roster. Does Miller have an international pipeline? He doesn't have a pipeline like, say, the Arizona coach, but he does have some contacts internationally. That's not his sort of forte, but I do think it is a place he can look. And you know what? That's also a thing you can acquire with an assistant hire. or with a special operations for basketball hire, right? If you're limited on your assistants, you can get the, blah, 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 special super assistant for basketball. And it's a Lithuanian guy. And all he does is goes and hits Euro academies and looks for guys for you. So you can always acquire that. Miller has had international players before. I would not say it's a specialty, but it's something that he's open to.
Cool. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear a word from Academy Sports and Outdoors, and then we'll talk about Miller's actual play style on the court.
Days like this, the anticipation's half the fun. The call to adventure. Possibilities in every direction. Look at that. The stories you'll bring back. Even the true ones. And already, you can't wait until next time. From first catch to biggest catch of the season, this is where it starts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
We will. It's finally warming up. We can have fun out there. All right. So, like me, a casual, right? What's different offensively, defensively about a Sean Miller team than a Rodney Terry team? Basically, what I've heard is that it's a more exciting product to watch, which sounds good to me.
It's a more exciting product to watch. If you're a guy who likes good sets on offense, a good offensive play run out of the timeout, good inbounds plays. These are signs of sort of offensive coaching with a pulse and with a clue. And you'll get that from Miller. And it's something, by the way, he developed over his career. The other thing, a lot of motion and a lot of high percentage stat nerd basketball. So what does that mean? Open threes, typically from a guy who's set up, ready to receive the ball. It's not dribble, take 3 steps back and jack up a three, a la James Harden. Not a lot of ISO ball. Thank God. If you watched that Xavier game, it was just brutal watching, 4 Longhorns stand and watch one guy try to take a guy off the dribble who's getting double teamed.
Defeats the whole purpose of a team.
There is, go rewatch Hoosiers. There's a reason that we make 5 passes before every shot and we're running screens for Jimmy Chitwood. There's a reason. So yeah, you're going to see more screening. You're going to see a lot of movement, and you're going to see a lot of set threes off of, motion and rhythm. And then you're going to see a lot of shots at the rim, whether that's a big man or an attempt at a layup. If you got a great intermediate game, great if that gets you open shots. But Miller likes threes and he likes dunks. And he runs an offense to try to get you there. He doesn't just tell his guys, hey, go play ball, make a play, dog. Like his thing is, hey, here's the play I've got for you so you can make a play. And I think we're going to really enjoy the offense. Defensively, he ain't Rick Barnes. He's not Chris Beard, or he's not evidenced that. Some of that could be the limitations of his athletes at Xavier. If you guys read my Xavier previews before the Texas game, I think I hit exactly on what that team was, because they just really struggled to defend individually and as a team, other than Swain, who is in the portal, by the way. He's the small forward for Xavier. 6'8", 220, good handle, very good on-ball defender. He can switch. He's one of those rare guys that can switch 5 positions on defense and not get exposed. Doesn't shoot threes, but you can work around that. So he is in the portal. But other than him, they didn't have defenders on their team. They didn't have any rim protectors. So it is hard to be a dominant defense or even a very good defense without natural defenders. So what Miller is going to try to do is get good offensive players who are versatile. Everyone can put the ball on the court. Everybody can shoot. And when you have 4 or 5 guys on the court who can do that at once, it presents a lot of problems to a defense. Then he's going to try to get them to play good, coherent team defense. And it helps with those traits if, you've got a center who's 6'10" with good timing, or you got a couple of bulldog on-ball defenders at guard and small forward. That really helps your team defense. So we'll see what he builds out. But I would say if you had to assign one side of the court to him, he's offense first.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. Historically, has he been able to field good defenses, or we got like a Lincoln Riley thing going on, or like kind of how does that work?
So he began at Arizona with pretty good defenses, partly just because of the talent he had at Arizona. But then you saw his offenses improve over time. As his offenses improved, the defense slacked off a tad. And then at Xavier, I'm not sure at the level of recruit he's getting at Xavier, you kind of have to make a choice between the two. You're not getting, you're not getting ultra complete players. You're having to take one side that's heavy on the other and then try to teach the other part of the game. So as Jeff G says, first inbounds play is going to get a standing ovation next year. Yes, agreed.
So this was something with Rodney Terry, and like I said, I don't know basketball, but I understand coaching. And I learned this actually from boxing. You would hear people in the corner like telling their fighters getting their ass kicked, and like they're just wrecked, tired, they're just getting outclassed, and you'll hear some coach give some trainers give some advice like, you need to go be tough out there.
Yeah.
And you'd hear the announcers that are former boxers be like, this is absolutely worthless.
Yes.
Like, you need to be telling them combos to look for. Like, you have to give him actionable advice. And like a couple times they would have the camera on Rodney Terry during timeouts. It would be this kind of nonsense vagary.
Yeah,
get in there, and stuff like that. And that's where I was like, okay, maybe the coaching's not as strong here. So that's
I have a lot more confidence when they go into the huddle and he's got a whiteboard and he goes, Jordan, you need to come harder off the elbow. Hey, You're not setting a pick. Stick with your pick. I promise you the plays. Like, I feel a lot more heartened by that. Now, he might have been completely wrong, but at least I'm like, okay, there's some coaching occurring here. The most famous thing in boxing, you made me think back to Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So Tyson, at that stage in his career, had gotten rid of his trainers.
Yeah.
And he had like some boys that he grew up with as his trainers. And one of them, Tyson was getting his ass beat by Buster Douglas. And one of them had an inflated condom with lukewarm water in it. And he was pressing it against Tyson's face. Yeah. Like that was going to reduce the swelling.
That was a hot water bottle or something.
Yes. And then the other guy was going, you're the champ, man. You're the champ.
Exactly.
And I was just like, dude, you got to tell him a way to get away from Buster Douglas's jab.
Yeah, it's and it's like, in fighting is so concrete, right? Because like you see that raw stuff, they just go out there and get KO'd right after that.
Yes.
But that's always stuck with me from boxing, that, hey, on the sidelines, when the camera's on you, I better hear you coaching. Like, I don't need to hear the vague stuff. Tyson versus Paul was a stain. It was
theater.
Yeah. So that's always what I look for. So whenever you say that Miller is doing good, drawing up good stuff out of timeouts and stuff like that.
Well, the Beastie Boy, Mike D, has a good comment that's relevant.
The UConn coaches?
Yeah. The UConn coaches, Gino and Hurley, said they are recruiting offensive players, not defense. Do you agree because of the style of basketball these days? Yeah. So interestingly, Mike, Hurley particularly has said, I want 5 skilled offensive players out on the court at once because I know what that does to a defense. But he's still looking for the underlying physical traits that would allow you to become a useful defender, if that makes sense. So if you're a 5'11", lead-footed guard, but you can really shoot the three, Hurley's not interested in you, despite that quote. But if you're a 6'1" guard who hasn't played a lot of D in high school, and you're kind of an and one mixtape, but you can shoot, you can penetrate, you can handle, you can dish. And it's pretty clear athletically you could play pretty good defense if someone taught you or told you you have to play good defense. That's who Hurley is targeting, if that makes sense.
Cool. So we know that the SEC goes on this crazy run. They get 14 in, right? And so if they get 14 in, and 7 have continued, is that just like a duh? If you get 14 in, you're going to get 7? Or how does that overperform? How does it work?
No. So actually the SEC dramatically overperformed 14 leading to 7. And people are like, what? It's just half. I mean, that seems like that's what should happen. No. And here's why. There's a neutral arbitrating body that isn't in the business of losing money called Las Vegas. And they set lines. And before the tournament, there was a line that said the SEC will have 5 or more teams in the Sweet 16, and the bet was plus 100, which that means is even money, which actually means that Vegas's internal number was probably like 4.5, teams will advance. They did the math. And I actually bet that SEC would hit the over. I thought we would get 6. We got 7. So I was an SEC optimist. I was fully drinking the Kool-Aid, and I underestimated that the number of teams. We got 7, of course. And the way I kind of figured it was like, I thought that we would get 3.5 out of, if you think of it sort of mathematically, we were going to get 3.5 out of Florida, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee, those 4 teams. One of them might get upset, so make it a 3.5 to be conservative. I knew Beard and Ole Miss were going to overperform. I just knew that was going to happen. So I assigned them almost a guaranteed Sweet 16, like 0.75. And then we had still a bunch of teams left over: Kentucky, A&M, Texas, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vandy, all these other teams. And I was like, one of them at least, or 2 of them are going to advance. This is a good bet. Vegas did this wrong. Turns out I was right. Turns out the SEC overperformed. So yeah, you should not expect our 14 teams to lead to 7 in the Sweet 16. And by the way, 7 in the Sweet 16 is an all-time conference record.
Yeah, there was somebody being snarky. There's just the people that are immediately SEC haters from whatever conference, and they're like, SEC's the first team to have 7 losses in the tournament. It's like, yeah, because it had the most 14 playable in. So it's like you're only. It was funny just showing one half side of that, how people cheat numbers in this.
Well, it's like the old back in the days of the Soviet Union. There was a headline that said, "International car competition, Russian car finishes second. Mm-hmm. American car finishes second to last."
Yeah.
It was a 2-car competition.
Right.
America finished first, Russian car finished second.
Yep.
You can massage a headline as a person who writes. There's rhetorical ways that you can be factually true, but spiritually and reasonably incorrect. So,
so I think
the SEC performed really well. And who didn't perform well? The Big East and the ACC, other than Duke.
Yeah, so that you were saying that Duke will trick people in a weak league, and they'll feel like, oh, they're still doing well, but reality is everything behind those kind of elite basketball schools are starting to decay, right?
Yeah, and in fact, the Big East, the argument used to be, and they were wrong even back then when they said it, but at least there was less people who knew the reality, but now they're really wrong when they say it. When they say a basketball-only program in the Big East is better than if you go somewhere and it's going to be football first, right? Well, look at all the teams that are dominating the tournament, right? There's a lot of football first that are doing really well. And then secondly, anyone who thinks that Seton Hall is a better basketball program or a better basketball job than any SEC school, you just don't understand like how this works. You don't understand the revenue. You don't understand how dollars are spent. The SEC, and the SEC is by far the least obsessed of the major conferences in terms of basketball. There's no doubt in my mind the Big East, the ACC, the Big 12 have more general hoops guys and like basketball fervor, right?
Yeah.
The SEC will have the biggest NIL budget of any conference this portal window. And it has to do with football. It has to do with that you're actually getting more resources because you're so hyped up and you've got such a huge TV contract for football. Some of that money is going to trickle to the other revenue sport because the attitude is, why not both? Like,
right.
Why
so
would you
don't have to
only
pick
be football when you have another revenue sport where you could actually make money? And I know baseball guys, I know that you can come out in the black on baseball, and that's awesome. I love our cultural championing of college baseball, and Texas is really special in that regard. There's a lot of other SEC schools that are like us in that regard. However, even in an amazing year, we'll be barely in the black in baseball. And that's cool. That's great. As long, having any sport that's not a drain is great.
Right.
But in basketball, you can actually make real money. Not football money, but you can make real money. And part of that is good old fashioned like arena sales. Selling out your home basketball court, there's a lot of seats. That's good. And there's a lot more games. And then secondly, merch. Basketball has a big impact on merch sales for young people in key demographics that advertisers and people who hawk their goods love. And that's just how it is. I mean, at the height of TJ Ford, I used to travel a lot back then. Every airport in the United States I went into, I'd see Texas hats and Texas shirts. And sometimes I'd hit up, small talk with these people. Be like, hey, are you from Texas? No, man, I'm from Newark. I just love the horns. I love the way they play. They weren't talking about Vince Young. So, basketball can be profitable. And if you've got this excess money, your money is better spent getting a third best dude on your roster in basketball than getting another wide receiver who's on the bench and is going to talk trash on Twitter the whole
time. Going to get arrested.
That's right. So there's the idea of marginal or diminishing returns. And then you got to look at your entire sports portfolio as an accretive sort of sports entertainment product. And business 101 would be to take high return dollars like you get in football, put them in basketball, because pocket change in football, $5 million. And I'm laughing at the idea that $5 million is pocket change. It is in football. You take $5 million in football and put it in basketball, you just bought half your roster, and you haven't talked to a single guy that's NIL specific for basketball. Like, you could go get 2 superstars for $5 million in basketball. Superstars. I'm talking about Cooper Flagg type players. I mean, dudes. Or you could go get 5 dudes who are all conference mid-majors easily and fill out your bench. Like, that's the power of a dollar in basketball. Now there's diminishing returns there as well. And then, you just got to realize that all the other sports other than men's baseball at Texas are a drain. That's just the reality of it. And no amount of investment will change that.
How does venues work with like, for instance, right, you have football stadiums that are frankly pretty worthless besides Saturdays, which is pretty crazy. You'd think you'd find a better way to monetize that, but it's just, they don't. They just kind of sit there because you need to have practice in them, whatever. But in basketball, you're having a top comedian come through. You're having a concert. How does that work? Do you know? Does the school just take all of that revenue? Are they like 3% of that's for basketball? How does that even work? Do you know?
I don't know. I remember the old Irwin Center days that Texas was not, getting a part of that because it was like a venue, right? Its own thing. That may have changed later, but yeah, Moody, you could do other stuff with it. I mean, you could bring in Kendrick Lamar, and UT is going to get a piece of that. Yeah. You have to be competitive, right? Or else you're going to lose out to another venue. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's multi-use and there's other repurposing that you can do. And it's an incredible venue. I mean, it's a great building. It's great sight lines. It's even great acoustically. So people want to perform there. You could get, freaking Kevin Hart, and you're going to sell that thing out 3 nights in a row. So yeah, absolutely. Even, stuff like if someone will just pay the bills of like having it open, you could bring in the state basketball tournaments. Yep. And there's a real value into the best player in the state playing at Moody and be like, man, I freaking love it here. I love the rims here. All my shots fall. Like, you never know how it's going to strike a player. And so, yeah, there's huge value in that. It's a useful profit generator because stadiums at Texas, for football are just for football. Like, I remember 30 years ago, I could go walk into Memorial Stadium and run the stairs. Yeah. I'd go in there with buddies of mine and we'd play like football on the turf. No one would chase us off. Like, it was a different world.
Well, now their offices are all built in, so you got eyes. They can see when you're doing that. But yeah,
we would run into security guards all the time, and we just chat with them and say, "How's it going?"
Yeah,
and no one cared. And we also had a track around the field. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, but yeah, I've always wondered. I'm like, we just totally like football stadiums are just kind of worthless, like outside of Saturdays. But Paul, who's not worthless?
Oh, I'm talking about worth. I'm talking about adding to your net worth. We're talking about Gabe Winslow. You got to give this guy a call. If you're in the market for a refi or a mortgage, or if you're just trying to figure out like what's going on, what's the lay of the land. Hey, my wife and I have talked about moving in the summer, but we're not sure. We kind of get on a shop around. Pick up your phone, dial these numbers, 832-557-1095. Tell him that we sent you, and he will take extra special care of you. Gabe is great at what he does, over 20 years in the industry. He's got a law degree, former National Merit Scholar at the University of Texas, and he is a diehard Longhorn fan who lives to help people realize their dream of home ownership. Or maybe it's your third, your fourth home, and you're maximizing. This is going to be your dream home, your final forever home. Talk to Gabe and start thinking about the idea of fall in love with, marry the home, but rent the rate. Gabe is the guy you want to talk to do that in the maximal and optimal way possible. And if you're looking to refi, he's got all sorts of tricks and all sorts of ways to get you effectively a free refi in many, many circumstances. Call him and find out how he does it. 832-557-1095.
Shout out, Gabe.
Shout out, Gabe.
All right, Paul. Here we got football. All right, so today is first day of practice. We have our very own Joe Cook, RT Young on the scene. You guys cannot see them yet, but I am being sent videos of the practice that we will turn into the video. And turns out the whole gang's there, guys. The whole team's out there working, so that's pretty solid. I got a nice video of PK coaching right there. All right, so before we do that, they dropped the latest roster.
Yes, they did.
And you wouldn't be a good football fan without looking through these and speculating wildly on players' heights that are always a lie and their weights that are mostly also a lie. So we need to look through everything, see who's grown and who hasn't, and it'll be kind of a fun exercise. We'll kind of go through it one by one-ish and see if anything pops out. And we'll also look at, for you number heads, I think there's something interesting kind of up front early. Anthony Hill, 6'3", 237. Pro ready, I think.
I was never concerned about Anthony Hill's frame coming out of high school.
I know, dude. His shoulders, dude. He looked like a triangle.
He is a dude who, if he wanted to, he could carry 260 and look jacked and still have a 32-inch waist. There's just dudes like that.
Yeah, his shoulders are crazy. But we see a position, our number change. Colin Simmons is now number 1 at edge. He is 6'3", 238. You think he's good there? Or you want him put on? You like him at 245? Anything with Colin Simmons?
I like Colin Simmons on the field. But yeah, I think ultimately he's going to be 250 by the time, hell, he might be that in fall. But by the time he gets out of here, he'll be 250. And I'm sure he's powerful and has a great first step at 238 as well. So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons from a physical standpoint.
I think the NFL is going to be like, dang, you're off 3 pounds. We're not going to be able to draft you. Ryan Wingo also moves to number 1 at 6'2", 214. I do care about weight more in the wide receiver world, but that's also just because Calvin Johnson burned into my mind at a young age. And that's the example to me of what I like in a receiver. So
Calvin Johnson?
Yeah.
Well, you have such low physical requirements.
Exactly. So I just to me, it's like if anyone could be the athletic freak that's a rarity, that's good. But anytime a receiver's getting 6'2", 214, I like that more than the Sark loves the speed guy. I'm more of like, dude, give me a boundary receiver. We got Jamie French at 6'1", 184, number 2, huh? And then Derek, these low numbers matter, Paul.
Hey, Colin Page is up to 212 from 210.
Where's he at? I know you had to find Page immediately, but
Austin Anderson's own Colin Page.
Yeah, dude, you jumped ahead, dude. Colin Page is the finisher, dude.
He is the finisher.
We're building 2 Colin Page.
That's why he's 212.
Yeah. Well, we got something for you here too, Paul. I'm going to Vegas this summer to drop some money on the Horns to win the Natty. I'm not a gambler, so do you have any advice I should know?
Well, you've already decided that you're going to drop money on the
Exactly. Paul would probably tell you already have done this wrong.
You're already a negative value on the return of your bet, but in terms of fun, it's a bet that you want to hit. You've already decided on your bet, so I don't know what advice you want, Splendid Daddy.
Tell him a nice restaurant to go after or something if you've been.
Yeah, hey, Vegas has great food,
yeah.
And it's fun. Get some good cocktails. Go hit Aria.
Yeah.
Go hit the slots. Look, I mean, I think Texas is like the third most likely team. I think last time I looked, I did make some preseason bets a while ago. They were on Clemson and Texas, and I got them at much better numbers than they are currently. The idea with Clemson is I don't think they're going to win the national title, but I do think they're going to win the ACC rather easily.
Did you bet to win their conference? I would take that bet.
I bet them to win their conference, and I also bet them to win the national title. And what I'll do with the national title bet is if they go to the playoffs and can win a game, then they're going to offer me a payout on my bet.
Kill it early.
And I'll pay out, or I'll hedge it against their next opponent. Either way, you're in the black and you're making money. But you've already decided on your bet, buddy. I can't help you out. I mean, what do you want me to say? Affirm your bet. From a basic return perspective, it's not a good bet, just because there's so many unknowns and it's not easy to win the national title. It's even harder now to win the national title, but it's still a fun bet. If you know,
should he do Arch to win the Heisman?
I mean, you have to have Texas be so he's got the name, he plays the right position. So you got those two checks in your box. Texas has to be a top 5 team.
Yep.
Texas can't disappoint. So, he ain't winning the Heisman with a 9-3 Texas in the regular season, even if we have a really tough schedule and all that. So, I mean, it's a fun bet, but again, that's sort of a chalk bet. So you're not going to get good odds or anything like that.
Well, it's more you're a fan of Texas and you're trying to wedge a bet in behind that when really you should be looking at like, what does Cincinnati have upside this year? Like that's where you're like find your value in teams that you're generally not a fan of.
Yes, I mean bust the Clemson bet to win the ACC or something like that. But yeah, I mean the thought is, can I get better odds? Here's the problem: Texas could be really good in large part because of Arch. If Arch misses 2 games due to injury, is he still Heisman eligible?
Yeah.
If Trey Owens comes in and plays well in those 2 games or well enough to win. That's the thing. A lot of Heisman bets are actually injury bets and health bets. And Arch ain't shy about putting his body out there. So
yeah,
I don't want to put that in the universe, but there is no good preseason bet for Texas in any form, other than it's fun, and that's what makes it good. So just bet a small amount take an amount of money that you could set on fire in the middle of your living room, and if it doesn't physically upset you, then that's a great bet, and you'll have fun with it.
Yeah, and make sure when you're in Vegas that you're betting in a rational state. So don't bet later in the day. Probably bet at 9 a.m. and then go do whatever you're planning to do in Vegas.
Some bets that I've made later at night at Vegas are not the best bets I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean gambling on sports.
Yeah. All right. Let's look. So something else that stuck out to me.
Hey, one thing I think you're missing, Connor, and maybe you've just forgotten, but I'm the foremost expert on football numerology in the world.
Yeah.
So that's I don't know if you know that.
Hey man, what are the numbers telling you?
Well, you guys know my theory about defensive tackles. If they take skill position player numbers, we may have a problem. We may have a prima donna on our hands, Connor.
Yeah. Who do we have?
Justice Terry. I'm sad to report. He's number 15, Connor.
Okay.
That's a problem, man.
Yeah.
He's told me that he's not interested in playing the run. He's told me that he's a sack-only guy.
I would say that's a pass rushing number.
He has decided that I will only rush the passer. How dare you to tell me to take on this double team?
Yeah.
That's a problem. There's still time. Change your number to number 95, and you're going to have an amazing year, both rushing the passer and stopping the run.
Yeah. And you'll be allowed to tackle at that point because you're not allowed to run stop in those low numbers. You can only get sacks.
What do you think about Arch Manning's number of 16?
I don't think it has any significance.
You're wrong. Joe Montana. Joe Montana. Also, he kind of chose his own number, which I like.
Yeah.
He didn't pick an uncle.
Yeah. What was Eli's? What was Eli's? I don't remember Eli's.
Was he 10?
I just know Peyton's.
What was Peyton? Remind the people.
He was 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a scrub number. And he did the ball.
I think, but that's what I'm talking about. I think this is actually an ego move where they're
Well,
like,
it's
we're
like when a
actually
running back-
ballers, but we're
When
going
a running
to
back doesn't choose 32,
Yeah.
but he chooses like 37,
Yeah.
you're like, well, he's either a scrub or he has a lot of belief in himself.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But he chose 16, which is not emulating his granddad, who was number 8, or emulating Eli or Peyton. He decides to set his own trail, and it's evocative of Joe Montana. Very powerful choice. I predict Arch Manning will be a good quarterback.
Yeah. Eric dropped a piece today that was probably one of the most rosy pieces I've ever seen Eric write about a player.
Eric vacillates between intense pessimism and intense optimism. It's all.
Well, I mean, we go sign up for Inside Texas, guys, because that's going to be what you want to see from Eric. And guess what? If you sign up for Inside Texas, you can get $1 for 4 months right now. We're not playing around. 4 months, $1. Spring practice. We have the best practice reports. You guys will come out a smarter fan. And also recruiting is going well, too, with a couple of RPMs for some 5 stars dropping. All right.
People were saying that Peyton Manning was 16 at Tennessee. Yeah, man, that's not relevant. 1, I didn't remember that. 2, it's not relevant because I didn't remember that.
Yeah, exactly. They don't.
I'm talking about the pros. That's where Arch is headed. He's not interested in transferring to Tennessee.
That's true. You guys are looking backwards.
Just because I don't remember things, that's not important to my overall thrust.
Yeah. You guys know not to test Paul.
Why would anyone? So first of all, I'm an expert. I am baseball.
Yeah.
Sometimes people try to challenge me on baseball, which is laughable. I'm the foremost expert on baseball, Connor.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is pitching, hitting, and fielding.
Definitely. That's what they say.
It's those things, and people try to argue with me about that all the time. Wrong. Yeah. I'm baseball.
Yep. And
I am a numerology expert. I've written the most conclusive, important piece ever written on football numbers on Inside Texas. It's still on the boards. I can predict the outcome of every player based on their number. And this is science.
Yeah.
And people still come at me. It's weird.
Yeah. Paul, they'll learn one day. And it's the most important numerology article. It's the only one we've done as well, but because you didn't need anything after that.
No one is interested in it the way I am because they think it's just superstitious or something. It's real. Every high school football coach knows what I'm talking about. If your stud quarterback comes out and he says, Coach, I want to wear number 26, but still pass eligible. That guy's a scrub, and you
gotta bench him.
You have to bench him, and you have to bench him in front of the team so it serves. Like, you have to not do it in a classy way. You berate him in front of the team and you bench him.
Yep.
And then everyone knows. And then everyone will go and pick the right number. Everyone who played high school football knows when the jerseys are laid out and you got to get the draft based on seniority of what jersey number you get. You got to watch out, man. If your nose guard says, I want to be number 4, you're not stopping the run all year.
It's
just a fact.
It's absolutely true.
If he says, I'm number 99, and he cuts off the jersey so it shows his belly, dude, no one's running on you.
Yeah, you got it with like sweat, right? What was it, 93? What a hideous number. But it shows the more hideous the number, the more gorgeous the play.
Thank you.
So this is one that stuck out to me. Cedric Baxter, he's been hurt, right? So maybe this is a little bit of fake weight that we won't see on the field. But Baxter,
230.
230. And as far as like needing the power back, that stuck out to me. First things first.
That's where he needed to be.
Yeah.
So I think Cedric has probably been really frustrated. I think he spent the offseason doing whatever he could, which is probably a lot of bench and pull-ups. He probably ate, and he's not been able to run quite as much. So he's up to 230. That's where he needs to be. Hopefully it's a good 230. I'm sure it is. But that's where he needed to be. He's a taller back, and his frame can handle it.
Yeah. I'm trying to look to Kristen Clark at 214. I'm clearly interested in running backs. Trey Wisner, 194.
Yeah, that's Wisner's true weight. They were trying to sell us on 200 something last year.
Like, shut up.
That ain't happening.
Trey Moore.
He's changed his number.
Yeah.
What number did he go to?
5. He's at number 5 now.
What does 5 do?
What
5 is your third down back, Connor.
Okay, there we go.
Reggie Bush, dog.
Okay, there we go. This is
Come on.
just the basics. I know, and I'm not there with the basics.
I honestly, I don't expect anyone to know what I know.
Yeah.
That's part of my expertise in numerology. But it's amazing what people don't know.
Yeah, it's
It's
shocking.
always
every
amazing.
time. Yep. Thank God we have you, Paul.
Thank God we have me.
to decipher.
Thank
it.
God for self.
Yeah, that's
Little
true.
callback.
Trey Moore, 246. At
246. I love that.
yeah, and especially if he's doing like Will. So Jarrett Gibson, right? 206. That's what's weird because Gibson, maybe the pictures last year, he looked like he was 270 pounds.
He is the most dense 206 that has ever walked the
I
planet.
know he looks like, dude, he looks like the 1970s like prison workout, like big, like those guys are like crazy. So him being lighter than I thought is interesting. I thought he's going to be a lot bigger than that.
Jared Gibson, you can just do infinite burpees.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was. Like
He just does prison workouts all day.
Yeah. It's so I
You
thought
need
he'd
like
be
3
bigger than
cholos
that.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
Whenever you see like a fit gang cholo dude covered in tats and he's got no shirt and long baggy white shorts,
Yeah.
I'm like, I've seen this video before. He's about to do 100 burpees in 60
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah, and it's incredible, dude. Those prison workouts are no joke, apparently. Brad Spence at 238 for like a backup mic.
Backup blitzer.
Yeah, I'm saying, but he's also going to turn into like a pass rush weapon. Justice Terry, 263, right? I think the services had him around like mid 270s coming in. So he's dropped some weight, which is ideally not what we want to see. So what do you think that is? Is he cutting? Ooh, smack my mic. Is he cutting to build back up? What do you think's going on here?
He slimmed up because of off-season conditioning. So he got introduced to some cardio. I think he firmed up probably a little bit. And then now the goal is to build him back up.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be 263 in August, if that helps.
Yeah, and that's kind of Becton does that. He did that with the entire team in year one.
Hey, I've got one thing that Elijah Perez and his sharp eyes picked out very quickly. Vosick at 239 seems a bit light. Agreed. I think Vosick is a guy who has to build himself up in the weight room to keep his weight up. And he keeps getting injured, and I think that's keeping him off the weights. And I think he'll be in the 250s come August. That is my prediction. But yeah, 239 is too light for that guy.
Zena is at 259. That's cool.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, so he'll be able to be that third edge we've heard. So he'll be able to play this strong side there at 260. Man, and I remember him at UA Under Armour camps, and people were like, man, he's slight. I don't know if he's going to be able to put on the weight.
Charles Omenihu.
Another Paul Wadlington special is never worried about, like, don't worry about them putting on the weight, man.
Yeah, it's like you guys didn't go to college too, and you weren't involved in an elite
Exactly.
program.
You weren't even an athlete, and you know that.
Do you know how many guys I knew who went to college and they were like 6'2", 150, and their senior year of college, they're 6'2", 210. Like, they're just frat rats.
You know what's interesting? Elijah Bo Barnes, number 30, is at 246 right now.
He's a big guy, and he can move at that weight, which is
yeah,
shocking.
dude. He can do pass coverage at that weight. So that's NFL's going to like that guy for sure.
Big guys that are easy movers, man. Special.
And then we got Myron Charles at 327 already.
Yikes!
Yeah. So
Big boy.
yep. So
Hey, January had a good weight.
he's in the 90s, isn't he?
317.
Okay.
Isn't he?
I don't know, but he's in the number 90s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let me pull up. This is like the first 36.
Where did January's dad play college football? He understands numerology.
Yeah, that's
He
true.
made his son get a number in the 90s.
Yep. Jonathan Cunningham. I'm trying to sort through this. Lance Jackson is already at 258. And that's what I've heard. He's slimmed down a little bit. Dude, I'm so excited for Lance Jackson, dude. That's my number one player in the program.
Hamilton McMartin, 180 pounds.
Yeah.
It's a good weight for Hamilton.
Dude, perfect for Hamilton Martin there, dude.
Hey, another thing, if you've got Polynesian players, you have to get slimming numbers, especially for their calves.
Is that how it works?
Yes.
Dude, I don't know why we don't have you working with the weight staff.
I honestly, I have a lot of respect for Sark. I really like him. The fact that he's not hired me as a numerology consultant concerns me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your rate, which was fair, of $18 million a year, but I just think sometimes people struggle.
Hey, you know what? I'll cut that in half.
All right.
That's how much I love Texas.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's the third Umeozulu.
The DB Umeozulu?
Yeah, Zeke, I guess.
Zeke?
Zeke. It's a cool name.
It sounds like a beverage made to compete with Zima.
Yeah, of course. A good pull there, Paul. Zima.
Hey, your Zimas are pretty good. You don't really want to ever be seen with Zimas by your boys, but they actually taste pretty good.
Solid. Travis Shaw at 350. Okay, that's good.
He's a large.
I look at defensive linemen. I look at defensive linemen and wide receivers for some reason.
I'm glad Travis Shaw fled North Carolina so he can get real coaching.
Yeah.
This Belichick guy, he's washed.
Dude.
Never.
If he has Tom Brady on his team, they'll do all right.
How many washed NFL coaches do well in college? Very few.
Yeah. I am fascinated to watch that.
Oh, it's going to be hilarious. I can't wait for the press conferences.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a different world, man. Bringing that.
Well, you're going to get North Carolina local press.
Yeah.
And they're going to do the talk about question. Hey, coach, talk about third down in the third quarter. What was your thinking process?
Yeah.
And he'll just be like, I don't know. We're just trying to win the football game.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just going to be like all personally offended. Coach ain't real nice.
He doesn't want us in the office. All right. Let's see.
He's not like Mac Brown. Mac Brown would spend 9 minutes on that question.
Daniel Cruz, 310. DJ Campbell, 322. Cole
322
Hudson.
is the right weight. If he is 325, bad year.
Yeah. Undisciplined at 325. 324, ready to play.
He needs to make sure he goes to the bathroom before every weigh-in.
Yeah. Cole Hudson, 315.
Hey, if you ever wrestled in high school or you boxed and you had to make weight, did you guys know that pee weighs more than poop?
No, but thank you for that, Paul.
Yeah, just wanted to give that.
Hey, in the chat, there's some fun facts for you.
Yeah. You could drop a couple of pounds with a good pee.
If you guys were wondering.
Just letting you know.
Melvin Hill's at 317. I'm trying to make sure we have a good interior size, basically. Nick Brooks at 353. He's been getting a lot of love from sources around the program. So expect Nick Brooks to be a starter next year, basically. 6'7", 353.
He's huge.
Yeah. NATO's at 327. Right? Brandon Baker, 316. Gooseby
What's
at
Nick Brooks' number?
Nick Brooks is 71.
Thank you. Tackle number.
Yep.
He understood the assignment.
Yep. He might be, man. He's been getting a lot of praise early. Gooseby at 314. How do you feel about that as a left tackle?
Good. He's actually he's the slimmest 314 you'll ever see.
He looks like a basketball player.
He looks like a power forward.
Yeah.
I mean, he is unbelievably well put together. I think that guy could drive his weight up into like 330 and still move just as well, and then have a little bit more base, a little more anchor in his booty, which is always helpful against a bull rush. That's what people try to do, the big tall guys, right?
Yeah. 352 for Connor Stroh, probably a little too heavy.
You know what? He's down.
Yeah.
That dude was in the 380s, I think, at one point in high school.
Yeah.
Little heavy.
Remember seeing him at Under Armour too.
Hey, do you remember I'm a little older than you, so you may not know this. Do you remember Mike Williams, the offensive lineman from Texas in the late 90s? Okay, so he was an All-American offensive tackle, and we were playing in the Cotton Bowl against Arkansas, and they destroyed us in that game. And Mike Williams went on Christmas break. Like, the players were released for 2.5 weeks. And over the course of 2.5 weeks, he put on 30 pounds before the Cotton Bowl.
That's remarkable.
And he waddled out there. He was about 385, and he couldn't even get in his set correctly. Yeah. It was amazing. Never underestimate the power of a big man.
Yeah, and also your body has no time to adjust that weight change. So you're talking about getting in your set. That's why it feels so weird. All right, Rich Barker, our boy, our secret tight end weapon. We need you to block.
You're bearing the lead. Jordan Washington. You got to read his height and weight.
Jordan Washington, number 84, tight end, 6'4", 268.
Good heavens.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think. I would have thought he was going to pop up at 230.
He's bigger than Spencer Shannon, who's been in the program now for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Spencer Shannon's still the same weight.
Yeah. Yeah, 268. Is that accurate?
I don't know, but I know he was 250.
Okay.
But talk about a guy that, senior year of high school, he's like 204, and everyone's like, oh, he's too skinny. It's like, well, 60 pounds later, I guess not.
Number 90, Josiah Sharma at 365.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is gigantic.
One tech. Yeah, he's got to be.
If you guys ever want to freak out, go pull up the roster weights or the starting depth chart of Texas football circa like 1990.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the offensive linemen are like 275, 280.
Yeah.
If there's a 300 pounder, there's like the word big is affixed before him. Like Big Stan Thomas weighs 305. It's crazy.
And it's crazy, like not like the mid majors and stuff, but all your like respectable, when I do the roster breakdowns, it's like everyone's at 300 now.
Yeah. Dude, in high school.
Yeah. And it's like, it's weird because it's like, man, that's a lot of really big dudes. Like whenever you see you're playing whatever, some lower end Big 12 team, and still all their guys are 300. It still surprises me every time when I go through the rosters because I think it's like D tackles, because D tackles, that's not the case. Like there's a clear delineation between the good schools weights and the bad schools weights. But on offensive line, they're able to just kind of, everyone has those 300 pounders now, which is interesting.
Well, and there's also a distribution issue, right? There's Byron Murphy, 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Where the guy has like a flat stomach and, could be in an underwear catalog.
Yeah.
And then there's Sloppy 300.
Well, yeah, that's the difference. It's like a lot of these 300 offensive linemen are not 300 through pure muscle gain and that kind of stuff. It's a fast food version of it, but it does surprise me because I expect, when you play X bad team, I expect their offensive line to be like 270 and, but it's just a wrong perception.
You go watch 6A Texas high school football. It's rare when they don't have multiple 300-pound dudes on their offensive line. It's really shocking. Like someone being 300 pounds was a big deal when I played. And it was like, whoa, look at that guy.
Yeah.
Half the time he was 5'9", and you're like not super concerned about that guy. He wasn't Kuna Ford.
Right.
But yeah, 6'5", 6'6" guys in high school that I played against, even if they were future offensive linemen, they were 240, 250. You just did not have this early growth and filled out frame, which, can be a little deceptive as a recruiter if you don't understand what you're getting.
I feel good about interior now because Hero is 309, January is 317, and Brevard is 352.
Yeah, Brevard and Shaw are massive.
Yeah, like that's what we
January's not tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the issue we're going to see with the defensive tackles this year is not so much they're getting pushed around. I think it's just the inability to make plays other than scheduled plays. Like Murphy, Sweat, Collins, Broughton, they made plays all over the football field. They gave you that value add of pursuit, liveliness. I don't know that we're going to get that from Brevard. I think he's just there to eat some blockers and kind of jam stuff up a little bit.
Yeah, but if you can do that, man, because that's what I worry about is like, if we're not able to keep the offensive line off the linebackers like we've been able to do, we can have some issues. So, man, if you can sit down with double teams and let Hill or Moore or Leonga run free, then I'm good with it. But I'm also
my thoughts before even seeing Texas as a complete school, complete defense. My thoughts is if I could, I'd want to try to get big and see if I could push Texas around this year.
Yeah.
That would be my instinct because I don't think I want to go like 4 wide and throw it every down with Hill and
the
Simmons.
Stats rush.
Yeah, all those guys out running around. I'm not sure that's something that's real intriguing to me. So
All right,
Ogbo's at 280.
Who is Ogbo?
Malik Ogbo. So I guess he's telling us he doesn't want to be an offensive tackle. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's also telling us he doesn't want to be a tight end either. At that, like he's put himself in a too big for tight end,
no man's land
for like offensive line. So it's like, I guess if they like create some position for you, but
I You know what, Connor? I got to tell you, I know we're going to take it. We're going to try to take a tight end in the portal. We might take 2.
Yeah.
We might take 2. Remember this. Remember this conversation, y'all.
I want blockers, man.
We need a blocker, and I think we need a catcher.
Yeah, because if Washington goes down, what happens then?
Well, and also, you know, if you want to be like a Gronk type talent and be able to do both, I guess I'll take you on my roster too.
Yeah, if we can get a Gronk or something, I'll allow it. All right. Good stuff, Paul. We talked basketball. I was able to kind of educate everyone on basketball as I do.
Thank you, Connor.
Yep. And then of course we talk football. And I'm being sent the content for the post-practice video as well. So we'll get that out. And then 1 p.m. recruiting intel. Like I said, 2 5-stars, got RPMs on the offensive side and defensive side. That'll be fun. And then we're also going to be covering Pro Day for you guys. You're going to know how Quinn looked and how Quinn threw. And then some of our guys, right, like a David Benda, who we're all rooting for, that didn't get invited to the combine, right? We want them to work out. We want the scouts to see them. So we'll be able to tell you how our guys are doing and are they improving their stock right before the draft.
What Connor is telling you is this is a huge day for content for Texas football, Texas basketball. I mean, baseball, we didn't even mention them. They swept LSU. They didn't sweep LSU. They won the series.
They won the series, yeah.
Absolutely awesome. Miller Presser is in 20 minutes on the Longhorn Network.
Yeah, I totally forgot.
We go, baby.
Yeah, this is a fun day if you're a Texas fan, guys, because all sports are firing right now. So enjoy it, guys. Make sure to not get any work done, and stay tuned into the channel because it'll be a fun day. Chat, thank you guys as always. Paul, thank you as well. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Goodbye, y'all.